Enjoy your meeting.
For your E-rate funding.
Just
Right
a
now,
reminder, today's meeting is being recorded.
yes. I'm not sure if you all heard that, but the most interesting man in the world has now told you that this meeting is being recorded. So without further ado, I'd like to give the microphone and the stage to Mr. Mark Thompson. Mark, feel free to take it away, my friend.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate it. And all of you, I thank you tremendously for taking a little bit of time out of your day today. I know it's extremely busy times right now, but I really appreciate you taking some time. I'll scoot through this fairly quickly. Feel free to ask questions as we go through. And then obviously, if there's heavy interest, please follow up with Matrix. We can come out personally to go into deeper detail with some of the topics that we cover here today. So as I get going here, just a little bit about Ruckus. If you guys aren't familiar with us, we were formed in 2004. We're out of Sunnyvale, California. I know I don't sound like I'm from Sunnyvale, California. I'm not, but I do live here now. We've got, thousands of customers out there, thousands of partners, and we've got the key that we're going to hit on today a little bit is the patents that we hold, what makes us different from our competitors. So it's, the question the comment I would say to consider while we're going through this, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it, right? There's other products out there that do what we're doing. It's why are folks migrating to us? So with that, just a little bit about our revenue growth and why we're excited about this, because you don't get this kind of growth if you're making a product that's not delivering good quality, a company that doesn't provide good service, and partners that are highly trained and attuned to it, where they're able to go out like Matrix and deliver the product for us. So we're seeing rapid growth. That obviously the numbers just mean rapid adoption, and that's what we're showing here today. So I did want to hit just a little bit on E-rate, just to make sure, if there's things there, Matrix has a great blog out there to go dig in a little deeper. For those of you that have not, maybe you filed in the past, maybe you haven't, or you didn't get funded in years past, just to kind of give an update, right, there's $4.9 billion available this season with an additional 1.7 for rollover. So the key thing here is if you haven't filed or weren't funded in the past, there will be no problem funding all applicants this year. No matter what your discount percentage is, if you're in the higher bracket or say you're down in the 50 percentile bracket, you'll absolutely be funded this year from what we are hearing, everything we're hearing from USAC and the calculations that have been run on the numbers. So that's good news for everybody out there. There's money on the table. Make sure you go get it. It's all about helping, the kids that are in the education, going through the education realm today. So the things with changes from last year to this year, right? It's no longer called Priority 1, Priority 2. They didn't make it a massive change, but they call it Category 1 and Category 2. Some products fell in and out of that, of these categories, right, for funding and things like that. And we can go into more detail. Obviously, the wireless product is a Category 2 eligible item, and that's why we're here today. But one of the key rules that has changed is it's basically there's no more 2 and 5, right? There is an amount of basically $150 per student for 5 years. That's not per year. That's $150 per student, total of 5 years. The math here at the bottom with the 5,000 students as an example, 85% eligibility, and that's your budget for a 5-year. You spend it how you like. You spend it all in year 1. You can spend it over 5 years. However you guys want to break that up, you have that luxury. Managed Wi-Fi is in the Category 2. That's managed internal broadband. So you have that capability to go out, and it's just simple math again at the bottom, $30 per year. And there's all kinds of ways to break this up per student. And we can get into more detail there if necessary. You guys know this probably already, who can get E-rate. A lot of schools can. Some people don't know if there's a private school on the line here today. You can get E-rate funding. As long as you don't have an endowment exceeding $50 million, you're eligible as well. And don't forget about the libraries there as well. Again, this part we already know. Category 2 is where we reside in this arena, so it's basic maintenance, internal connections, the access points and the controllers are all Category 2 eligible. Again, you guys are probably very familiar with the process. Filing a 470, 28 days to go out, file a 471 is your selection, that would be matrix, and then go through the funding process. So just a simple thing there. So if we get into the Ruckus, I'm going to share with you kind of a success story first and back to why we have at Ruckus raving fans, not only from end users like yourselves, but also from partners like Matrix that are selecting Ruckus as a differentiator in the wireless infrastructure, right? So to be kind of blunt, look, we're plumbing, right? We're moving information, data through the lines or through the air, right? And Lodi is a school here in California, 30,000 K through 12 kids. They've got 3,000 employees and 25,000 Chromebooks. When we were going through the process, that's 100 Chromebooks on stage there with one AP, maybe 75 feet away, streaming the NASA Gov website. So at full tilt, no buffering. That was kind of their trial. The next trial was move it outside of the walls and see what the performance does, right? So what I would ask you guys, if you're interested and you like what you see here and you haven't filed the 470, if there's an opportunity, Ruckus and Matrix are not shy about, let's do a proof of concept. We want you, you're making a huge investment. If you're using E-rate dollars to fund this, you're making a 5-year investment, right? Because you have to maintain that gear for 5 years. So we encourage that you bring gear out, fire it up yourself, and try it out, right? We don't make purchases as individuals day in and day out. Even say a $25,000 car, $10,000 car, you're going to drive it before you buy that thing. We'd ask you to do the same thing. Just try it out. We're more than happy to send out a controller and AP and let you guys kick the tires on it. There's also a video clip online with Lodi. I encourage you to go hit the Ruckus website and take a look at their tech director talking about their process of choosing Ruckus and what they went through, et cetera. And just certainly appreciate that as well. So, you know, when we look at this and you start to think about future ready of your classroom, I'm going to click to these slides here. There's a lot of things to consider, right? You guys have a one-to-one initiative. Typically, most schools do. They're trying to get a component in each of the children's hands. You've got digital curriculums coming down at you that are continually to grow in size and absorb in bandwidth. You've got changing environments, meaning not only are your students maybe going outside, but the classrooms are movable, they're rearrangeable. Maybe they're partitioned off at times, maybe they're not. That all impacts wireless connectivity and quality day in and day out. So even there's architectural firms out there now that are building classrooms for this type of learning. They're turning more into kind of coffee shops, if you will. Not that a 6-year-old needs to have a cup of coffee, but you get my point. It's more of an open, more of a group environment. The antennas on these things are changing. They're standing behind structures or objects, so there's a lot of obstruction. There may be interference depending on where they're going. And that's where Ruckus comes in. We really start to get into the tough environments and start to solve issues that are causing schools a lot of problems today. So keep that in mind as you start looking at it. You guys are hit with a lot of change every day, and it will only continue over time. More bandwidth, more change, right? All that's going to occur as we continue. And Wi-Fi is not going away, right? It used to be Wi-Fi was a luxury item. You know, you get to come in, you get to be connected, and it was just kind of a luxury item. Now we all know that folks have 2, 3 devices. They're getting younger. Children are coming in with with devices now, maybe one or two in their backpack that are coming to school. So, this isn't going away. It's just continuing to grow. The pressure is mounting to keep supplying high quality, faster speeds, etc. So, again, when you acquire this equipment, it's typically for about 5 years. That's why we're saying give us a good look. Make sure you go with high quality because you're going to live with it for a little bit, and the demand is not going to decrease over time. So before we get into the actual, hey, here's what our product does, right? We've got to onboard, and I really don't even like the term onboarding. I like enrollment, right? You have to enroll to get into the wireless infrastructure, right? So for you folks that are managing these assets day in and day out, it's going to be important to have this stuff in your students, your faculty, guests coming into the building have the ability to enroll into your wireless infrastructure. We do that very easily. It's a couple of step process. You basically come in, you enroll the first day, name, first name, last name, etc. You build it up depending on who they are and what type of device. You can build out, and it's not shown here, you can build out workflows behind the scenes that are going to send whatever this asset is, whoever this person is, down a certain path. The beauty is once they enroll the first day, day 2, 3, and on, as long as as far out as you want to set that parameter for that device, it may be only for 1 year, they don't have to re-enroll each day. And that's huge for students that are coming in, that are opening up their Chromebook. The teachers just spent a week on a digital curriculum. There's nothing worse than a teacher spending that time and bringing that digital curriculum, that learning element into the classroom, and the Wi-Fi not being available, or tough times logging in, and they have to go to plan B. Those are the pains that are happening. So this gives time back to the teacher, right? It's an auto login on day 2, 3, and on, and you'll set the parameters of how long that will last. And again, you can set up different VLANs and segment, have different rules and capabilities, permissions based depending on who that is. So that's there as well in the onboarding process of this, and that's a critical piece of this. So keep that in mind as well. As we get into why people are going towards Ruckus and why we're seeing a tremendous growth is when you look at traditional APs, access points that are up in there, and a lot of these manufacturers get a chipset from, say, Qualcomm, or you name the company that's building a chipset, and they put it into a container and they post it up on the wall. Well, these signals kind of are like a light bulb that just hang above you and just emit in all directions, right? Which is fine. It's good to kind of get some initial coverage, but what starts to happen is they start to bleed into each other, and that then becomes interference, which is not good for speed or throughput for your access points that are out there for data. So this is something to keep in mind, and we would challenge our competitors in a lot of situations. Sometimes you'll hear, and we're more than happy to do this if you choose, we'll hear that you need an AP in every class. Well, if you go out to our website and you look at Lodi, I think there's one on Dublin or Columbia. I know certainly Dublin school districts here in California, they win every other classroom. Why? Because we have a stronger signal, and we're able to tailor that signal in a direction, and we'll get more into that. But they did an AP every other classroom. That goes against the norm of what you're going to hear, and it's because of technological differences. And that's why you're seeing other competitors tell you every classroom. So interference, right? If you can completely focus your signal and control your signal, you get larger coverage areas, you get faster data rates, and you can connect more devices at the same time. So if you go back to the picture I showed earlier with Lodi, that was 100 Chromebooks on one access point, right? Most classes are 30 students, maybe it'll vary, give or take, right? So when I say two classrooms, you've got 60 students sitting next to each other. Well, we've definitely done that full tilt with full streaming off of the NASA Gov site. So if you're using things like that for streaming video, we can certainly prove to you and have proven to others that we can handle that. And it's because of, again, not what we do, but how we do it. So you're starting to see a little bit now of, hey, we channel our signal, right? So when you look at the control and the focus, it's you kind of, I like analogies, but you look at an escalator, right? You've got all these people trying to get onto this path, and how do you do that, right? So, you know, this and coupled with that, these smaller devices that are coming out, whether it's an iPad or a phone or what have you, they have smaller antennas. They're not pushing a bigger signal out, right? You've got more people using it. So how do you accomplish this? How do you provide for everybody, right? What we have is something called beam flex, and I know some of our competitors will talk about beam forming, and we'll touch on that here in a minute. But beam flex is actually an improved performance, and as we go through this, and I may repeat myself, you're channeling the signal. I want you to think of, instead of a light bulb hanging in a room, I want you to think of a lighthouse on an island. That's what we do. It's one thing to have the light sitting there sending a signal out without that reflective mirror behind it, right? That's what really gives it that beam when you're looking at a lighthouse. Well, that's basically what we do in our product. We surround our signaling to block out interference, block out other noise, and we channel that signal to where it needs to go, and connect those students and faculty members up. Okay, and this is what absolutely allows us to have fewer access points, fewer wire drops if necessary, and fewer switch points. Right. So now you're gaining your money back into your district so that you can reallocate those funds into other things that are other initiatives that are extremely important to the school as well, and it's not getting all tied up in technology day in and day out. So as we crack open the box, right, and you start looking at the antenna array, some folks will have some sticking up as a tree stump off to the left, and then what we do is we actually bring ours in and we put an array within there, and you're seeing boards that are sticking up and poking up and prodding up. If you crack open the other one, you'll see some flat chipsets and board sets that are in there without much thought post what the manufacturer for all of us has done. So we've taken what like a Qualcomm has built, re-engineered it, cleaned it up, put software on it, really customized it, right? I think of, when we were kids, we had cars, right? All we did was fix those cars up. We made them better. We made them look neater. We made it handle better. Same thing we're doing here. And we have all that patented. And again, I think this patented technology and what we're doing is what's driving more clients and more partners to our camp, because you get stable connections at high data rates. You have less APs to deliver, right? More concurrent users per access point. All that's huge, and that's something that's going to continue to grow and increase for the school districts. It's not going to go away. It's only going to increase for you guys. So again, when you look at the throughputs on here, without any interference, which we know there's going to be interference, everybody's pretty close. You set it up in a room, and we're all looking pretty decent. But what starts to happen when you start to put a bunch of APs up, like one in every room, they bleed over, you get interference, you've got other things going on within the building and schools or outside. If you're outside, you start to have other interference things that are starting to hit your access points. And that's where the rubber hits the road. When you start to introduce problems, interference, that's where our competitors will absolutely drop to the floor, and we maintain throughput because we're very focused and centric on where we're sending our signaling. And again, it's a tremendous amount of engineering that has been taking place to do that. So when you think about Wi-Fi communications, it's literally like you're talking just as if you walked into a crowded room and everyone's talking, that's interference. You're getting that all the time. So good communication works both ways. Not only is, how loud are we pushing out our signal, but how well are we listening, right? So if I have a little iPad or a phone with a small antenna and it's sending out a weak signal, I need to be able to, typically most people will cup their ears, right? They're going to lean in and kind of cup their ear and make sure, hey, did I hear that correctly? We do that day in and day out. We shield interference away while we send out our signal to capture, but we also use it to listen back in. And those are highly important when you start to get into high density areas and still needing to maintain a tremendous throughput. So you've got to make it listen better, right? The mobile devices, again, smaller antennas are going to push a lighter signal upstream. So we want to make sure we're able to hear that. The other thing that happens, right, with a lot of the manufacturers is the board noise, right? Again, you take it from the manufacturer, they put it in an access point, they hang it on the wall. You get all this up in the upper left. You have all this interference going on just internally with the system, right? With board noise, right? So what we've done is we've gone in, and that's why you see things that are literally physically standing up and sideways and blocking and et cetera within our board, is because we're trying to reduce the interference within our own access point when we hang it up. So you see that as a big play, and again, it allows us to use fewer access points when we start to hang up, and then hear those weaker devices that are trying to send out a beacon to say, hey, I'm ready to connect. Well, if I don't hear you, you're not going to connect. So it's extremely important to look at that. The other thing is, and this is patented as well, is the dual polarized antennas, right? So when you think back to that picture of those kids that were outside, right? They're sitting on the ground, or maybe they're laying on a couch because they've got enough, attaboys to go get a free day of reading at the library, and they're going to look at their iPad. Well, that angle of that pad changes. And you guys have probably noticed this if you're walking around looking at a video clip on your phone at a Starbucks. You're holding it one way. Next thing you turn and you tilt it and lay it flat on the table, and you get some disruption in the stream. Well, what we do is we're able to match this vertically and horizontally. So snake in the grass and then just up and down, right? And that's extremely important because kids and faculty are becoming more mobile, right? They're now starting to move around the classroom. They're moving to outdoors. We do have outdoor APs, so keep that in mind as well, that you need to be able to handle that signal going to and from each device, no matter which way the angle is. So again, it helps it listen better, and it helps us give commands out to the end device as well. So again, beam flex, targeted, focused beamforming, a light just kind of emitting out into everywhere, and it's bleeding over. You're getting that crossover, as on the right side shows. That's going to create interference, going to create disruption. It's going to start to provide poor quality, download speeds, the amount of data that can transfer. So just keep that in mind as we keep moving through. And here's actual photos of clients that are going out. When you, it almost, again, pushes back away from the AP, blocks everything out. Unless there's another client there, then you would see another bubble come out. It's like holding a balloon in your hand, and kind of squeezing it. It'll bleed out one side or the other. That's the same thing we're doing with our signaling. So we're focusing it to where it needs to be. We have a lot of controllers that are out there. I won't go into too much detail. These are just data sheets we can send out. These can be physical devices, or they can be VM. So if you guys have deployed virtual machines, you don't need this hardware sitting in there. We'll provide you some software, and you can put this on VM if you'd like. I'll scooch past that. The commonly used access points that are out there, and we've got the indoor. The R710 is the new one. It's the 802.11ac. The reason these are important, right, is because it's a 5-year investment. you have the opportunity to go out and pick these up, I would say go for that level. If budget becomes a constraint, we've got other ones that are downstream that will absolutely do very well in your environments and handle it just fine. So, and we're happy to try those out. And then in the outdoor arena, we have these. I'm going to share with you something that I probably should have mentioned earlier. The other thing I would consider as a school district, right, and we're seeing this a lot across the country when I go out to these shows, is that students are getting one-to-one devices, and they go home, and some of these students, as you are very aware more than I am, they don't have connectivity. They're looking for connectivity to get to their house, and it basically becomes a paperweight. I encourage the school districts now, and anytime I talk to a city manager or city IT person, I'm talking for those two to get together. Because right now, if you take over here, we have San Jose. The city of San Jose has lit up its railways, its buses, parks. We did the same thing in San Francisco. The parks, Market Street is lit up with wireless infrastructure, so that when these kids are at home, they at least have somewhere to go. They can go to a park, they can go to a city hall, they can go to some sort of city-owned entity and have wireless infrastructure. So I think as you start thinking of this whole thing, it's really a community as a classroom. It's not just the school's classroom anymore. So I encourage you guys to go out, talk to your city leaders that are around you, and join together on this, because you'll find that some students just don't have the access, and it's good to start talking about it now. So keep that in mind. That's, I went through that fairly quickly. I guess I can open it up for questions at this point, but one other thing I would mention that wasn't on the deck, we do have what's called a meshing technology. So when you get out there and you put APs out, if there's somewhere in places that you cannot run wires, you can absolutely connect two APs together without having to run a wire cabling out to the other. After you do, you can do that once. The second time, if you I'll call it daisy chain for lack of a better term. You do it the second time, you get half throughput. But that is there. It's a meshing technology that's out there that helps reduce cable runs and things like that. And so keep that in mind as well. And Ryan, with that, I hope I didn't blow through that too fast.
Beautiful.
But I'll open up for you.
No, not at all, Mark. I think that was wonderful. Thank you so much. For all those that are out there right now, if you do have any questions while we still have Mark on the line, feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you. Again, Mark, thank you for spending some time with us here on this rainy Thursday, at least here in PDX. We hope that everyone out there found this information informational. I thought it was a wonderful, comprehensive walkthrough of how Ruckus can help you all look like IT heroes for your school districts. If you do have any questions or follow-up information you're looking for, feel free to send us a note at info@mtrx.com. You can always contact us via our website. And as a reminder, do check out our blog page for additional resources, as well as look forward to the recording of this session in hopefully the next hour or two, as long as I don't have any issues with the MP4 file. Mark, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Everyone out there, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.